name's Rick Barker. I own a company called MusicIndustryBlueprint.com, and I was invited here to Two Old Hippies. I think this is like our fourth one. Yeah, it's been really good. Doak here from MusicStartsHere.org and the Nashville Muse. A lot of you get his newsletter. He was trying to find, and we were trying to find an opportunity. There's so many things out there for the songwriter. There's so many things for the actors workshop and all this stuff, but there's not a lot for the artist. And we wanted to find a place where we could come and just share the information. My background, real quick, for those of you that don't know me, is I did radio for 15 years. And in 2001, I built a country station. And that was my first dive into country music, and I just totally fell in love with the format and the artist. And I've always been one of those guys that is just weird. I don't know any other way to put it. And I always say weird wins, because a lot of people won't do it, so it eliminates a good portion of the competition. And working with Taylor Swift and Scott Borchetta, he would always say, start it crazy and work backwards. You know, that was always his saying. So I had just created some opportunities for the artists that opened up doors and helped me build relationships with Sugarland and Little Big Town and Rodney Atkins and Josh Turner. And in the process of building those relationships, Scott Borchetta at Big Machine Records and I developed a relationship, and he's the one who brought me out of radio and into the record business. From the record business, we had a 15-year-old at the time that wanted to learn radio. I came from radio, so he shipped Taylor Swift out to me when she was 15 years old and said, teacher. And she spent 30 days with me, and it changed both of our lives. We went out. I wanted to teach. She wanted to learn. It was awesome. We were able to do some crazy stuff, and the rest is kind of history. In 2008, after spending 185 days on the road that year with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, I made the decision to take every relationship and everything that I had done and open up my own business, move the family here to Nashville. I came from nothing, so money has never been a driving factor for me, but that opportunity and the doors that were open through the relationships that I made were great. So I'm one of the few guys that has radio experience, record experience, management experience, and I always tell people I made a fortune plagiarizing lazy people. I'm not the first to think of a lot of things, but I'm usually the first to follow through with it. And that's why I'm glad that David's here. What's really interesting about this, so what we do is we come here, we'll chat a little bit, we open up questions. The only reason you'll leave here without your question getting answered is because you didn't ask it. So if there's anything about the business you can ask, we'll answer it. If I don't know, I'll get your email and I'll get you the answer. We don't bullshit here. If something isn't worth where you're at in your career, we will tell you that. Disclaimer, I'm like sushi, I'm an acquired taste, I am not for everyone. So if you want somebody to tell you how great you are and all that stuff, go to your mother or your choir director. That's really not my role. I will point you in the right direction. I will give you the tools that you need. What I always tell people is this: I'm the toolbox. I don't build your house. You guys are all in business for yourself. It's your business. But we can be the resource for you to get the information that you need to move forward and answer those questions. So with that said, I was talking to my buddy Chris Rocket, who's in England. And if you haven't ever heard of Chris Rocket or met Chris Rocket, go to musicmarketingclassroom.com. Yours is musicmarketing.com. His is musicmarketingclassroom.com. I'm all this stuff. But he's like Russell Brand, you know, and he's like, mate, there's this guy in Nashville, you got to talk to him. He wrote this book. I said, yeah, he was at my Two Old Hippies event. He gave me the book. He's like you, but in a book. And I'm a GED kid, so I couldn't write a book. But when I started reading David's stuff, I'm like going, okay, I'm doing everything he's talking about, but in the module form. I said, this is great. So I picked up this book, and I just started reading and started reading and started reading. And he's a knucklehead because he gave it away. So I got it for free. Then I bought it because I felt obligated. I only bought the Kindle version, though, which was like $3 or something like that. Yeah, but the thing is that he's a lot like me. We've been giving, hey Bob, we've been giving so much that it's turned around and given back in just various ways, which has been really awesome. So what I'd love to do is just, talk to him a little bit. If at any time you have a question, raise your hand and interrupt us. We're cool with that. Whatever you need, if there's something what we're talking about. But
we've got some giveaways for good questions.
Oh, good. Okay. So six-figure musician, sounds great. Most of the guys who write these books haven't ever made six figures, but they're great writers. Where did this come from for you?
Well, I mean, you could look at my tax returns or whatever, but even so, I mean, I'm not. I actually am a musician. I mean, here's the funny thing. You started in radio,
Yes.
and then got into the record business. I started the record business, the marketing business, and I got into radio just the opposite because I wanted to market myself. So if you've heard my show, Music Business Radio, that's the reason I've gotten it is so I can market myself. The book is also a marketing tool. My first book is called How I Make $100,000 a Year in the Music Business. And this is just a continuation of that. I had done it with a musician that was doing just that. We showed you the step-by-step plan, but it just wasn't really written well. And this is an additional probably 10 years of marketing knowledge. And I wanted to do something bigger. This isn't like one guy just described this on Amazon and said, this is a bigger picture thing. This is not just how to tag your YouTube videos. This is a lot of big picture stuff. And a lot of it, what I've heard you talk about with Taylor, is what she's doing.
Well, a lot of it is, it's changing your thinking. You know what I mean? It's like right now, everybody comes to town and it's like I said to somebody the other day, they handed me their thing and I said, dude, if I see another picture of somebody on the frickin' train tracks holding a guitar case.
Where's he gonna go next?
The trains are dropping them off in the Gulch. You know, it's not that field that they're at anymore. And he goes, we're just coming here. I always tell everybody, I say, if you see a guy in a cowboy hat, he's a tourist. You know, it's like those days of getting discovered. I'm like, you discover planets and cures for diseases. You know, you don't discover people.
Yeah.
But what you started talking about in this book and the things that I really liked were there's a lot of just common sense stuff. You know, it's like you wouldn't do this, so why would you expect your fan to do it? Okay, great. You know, it's like I did a thing on the radio one time and you bring up, you said you go get it. Basically, the number is $118. That's what's been proven that a true fan will spend on you. T-shirt, concert ticket, whatever the case may be, is $118. So there was that book, go get 1,000 fans at $118 and you made six figures. You do something that's even funnier. You go, well, I'm gonna go get 500 people and give you $300. You just made $150,000.
Yeah.
Now what's interesting and what, as you're building your fan bases, these people want everything you've ever done. I get more requests for work tapes and demos of Taylor's old stuff because the fan truly wants to be with you. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about, and I want to read a little of this and then talk about, and this is basically my whole business model. I'll give you my business model, and you guys can go start your own business. It's artist to fan engagement. If I'm not going to buy your record, don't worry about what I think about your product. There is a market for everyone. It may start off with just you and your mother, but there is a market for everyone, and then you need to go out and build that market. And what you need to do is not take advantage of the fact that somebody has said, I'm digging what you're doing, let's have some communication. Because the biggest mistake that most folks make in this town anyway, and I just had to do this survey, is I had to find out why the major labels could not get email signups. And what I noticed when I went through all of them, it was either submit, updates, all of them were asking for personal information and not a one of them was offering me anything of value.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I don't need more emails.
Yeah.
I don't need to know that you need my vote for your ACM award. I don't need to know that you're not touring. I don't need to know all these things. So we did an experiment. We took an unsigned artist and we offered 7 free songs and a little story behind the song every day. Now the concept, just so you know, of an email address for a download is not a new concept. The rock guys, the alternative guys have been doing it forever. But the opt-in is like 5%. We are at 100% of the people that watch that video because it's the artist personally inviting you. I want to get to know you. I want to send to you. I want to come see you. Was absolutely huge. And then once we get that email, it's up to us to build that rapport. And that's where I think most people make the mistake, is that they record a record, then they go try to sell it, and they're like, crap, I'm not selling anything. Well, duh, you didn't build the audience for it. Most people record a record and don't even know if there is an audience for it.
Should we talk about the hamburger stand?
I love the hamburger stand. I got the answer wrong, by the way, just so don't feel bad if you don't think the same way.
This is just, let's do a contest. Let's do a contest for a book. Okay, so if I'm gonna operate a hamburger stand right now, what is the one thing that is going to make me more successful at my hamburger stand than somebody else's?
Location.
Okay, location, what else?
Great
Product.
hamburgers.
Like what kind of product?
Something different.
Okay, something different, location, what else?
Getting the word out. Find hungry customers.
Price.
Come here.
Oh.
That's the answer. Or for a lemonade stand, thirsty customers. What's your name?
Matt.
Yeah, you work here though, right?
I do.
Okay, so he knows about marketing, because I think this is a great example of two old hippies. I was joking around with Rick. I said, you know, it costs a lot of money to be a hippie these days, and and that's cool, and that's why they're here in Jones with this nice spread, man. So anyway, hungry customers, and I think that kind of sums up the music business and Rapport. If you've got hungry customers, it doesn't matter about your location, because they're going to drive there. It doesn't matter about something different. It could be, I mean, if they're hungry enough, they're going to eat, you know, anything.
Well,
Bread sandwich.
what's even more interesting about that, and you talk about this in the book, is everybody says that they want stuff different, but why are the #1 things every year, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, and all? You can say, there are so much better burgers. People
Yeah.
are drawn towards things that they're familiar with. People are drawn towards things that they feel they have a relationship with. Somebody said to me one time, they said, I read some statistic, is that McDonald's is the largest toy store in America. Because that's what they don't sell burgers, they sell toys to kids. And that's the biggest distributor of toys is a McDonald's because of the damn Happy Meal.
Think of this, and I got this from Johnny K. You might know him from Los Angeles radio. This is fascinating. You know, but we think about the world is a really scary place. And Johnny told me, he said, radio, and you can tell me if this is true,
Okay.
they don't play anything new before 10 a.m.
That's the normal rules at 99% of the radio stations, correct?
And here's what he told me. He said, why is that? He goes, well, because the world is a scary place, and you have to know that you're going to live and survive, and everything is going to be okay. You don't want to take those kind of risks. When you think about it, that's why when we're on the road, you're going to stop at McDonald's.
Right.
Because it's too much of a, it's scary, man. You're out of your comfort zone, you're on the road, or you're doing whatever you're doing, and you want some. Then the #1 food after 9/11, this is fascinating, if you can imagine this, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in New York City, because people just wanted that comfort food. That's why you see Paula Deen doing really well with her comfort. That's all she has is comfort food. Just
Interesting.
butter and sugar and deep fry it. It's not good for you, but it's going to make you feel mentally good.
But what's funny is that the marketing concept behind that, her son has a cookbook that's all the stuff Mama shouldn't have fed me, and he has his book, and I just saw him making all the rounds on the shows too.
Right.
One of the interesting things, there's other seats around here if you guys want to come up and kumbaya with us or whatever, we got it going on. One of the interesting things, and this is one of those Taylor stories, is that I'm a big fan of free music. And when I say free music, marketing costs money, okay? Use your music as your marketing situation. It's like if you can use this as a way to get people in. So somebody said to me the other day, they're like, yeah, Rick, it's really great for you to say all this, give away your music, but you know, Taylor never gave away downloads. And I said, you're right. She gave herself. We came at a time when we only had MySpace. We didn't have Twitter, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have YouTube. All she had to give them was that relationship that she built with them. Now let's look and see how powerful that relationship was. Female singers in the room? Okay. What a lot of people don't understand is the females go through 3 vocal changes. One about 13, one about 17, one about 22, 23 is when they finally come into their voice. That's why when you were singing Broken Wing and all that crap when you were 12 and 13 to win all the talent contest and the rodeo stuff and you were yodeling and you don't do that anymore when you get to 17, it's because you can't. And that's what I try to explain to people. I had a mom one time, what advice would you give my daughter? I said, never sing another frickin' Carrie Underwood song again, because the risk versus reward isn't really good. So, Taylor came out when she was 16, 17 years old. Voices are going through changes at that time. So what she did is she wrote these great songs. And these songs were touching your life, but all of a sudden, all the critics started talking about she can't sing, she can't sing, she can't sing, she can't sing. And I'm like, oh, she made $30 million last year. I would love to have that job, not being able to sing and make that. What she had is she had a group of people that loved her so much they were willing to go through this stage with her, while every one of the quote-unquote professionals or industry people were bashing the crap out of her. especially after that Grammy performance, she came out and said, that was a terrible performance. And these kids were like, no, it wasn't, Taylor. You know,
Stevie Nicks.
well, she was with Stevie Nicks and
Stevie couldn't sing.
well, and on that, yeah, they were blaming Stevie. You know, it wasn't Stevie's
Well,
fault.
you know what that is that's connection though. That's
Yeah.
that's exactly what we feel when we go into a McDonald's. We feel connection. We know that the bathroom is going to be a certain way. We know what a #1 value meal is. We know that's connection.
But that's tough for an artist because you're telling people, say, hey, we need you to be unique, we need you to be original, and people are scared of unique and original. And that's why I encourage people when you do these cover songs. Jim Catino, A&R guy at Sony, was on a webinar with some of my students, and somebody asked him, they said, look, would you rather, how many songs should I show up with? What would you rather me have? And he says, I would rather you show up giving me your interpretation of a song that I know than your interpretation of a poorly written song. And I thought about that for a second, and I go, okay. He goes, because I don't have to debate whether those guys know how to write that hit. That's a hit song. I would rather hear that. And I'm sitting there going, wow, all this money that's been spent, all these poor kids that have been told, you have to write your own songs. We have a town full of great songwriters. What you need to bring is the best song. Real good example, Lee Brice, past 3 #1s that he sang, he did not write. Last year, he had 3 #1s he wrote. So learn from the people that are doing this. Go find the best song for you.
Well, I think just in general, bringing specialists. I think that's another one of the big lessons.
Oh, yeah.
If there are people, all they do is write songs. They're not artists because they can't be artists. You be the artist, let them write the songs. And if you're a good songwriter, I think that's great. It's a good way
Sure.
to make money. I mean, I'd love to write and be an artist at the same time. But a lot of people, you shouldn't be writing. You should be just recording.
Well, and the thing too, which is interesting, if you do the math, I would much rather be the writer. My overhead's less. I get to stay
Just
at
hang
home.
out.
I don't have to be on a special diet. I don't have to get up and do radio tour.
I don't
Hillary
know.
Lindsay said that. She goes,
Well-
look, let Carrie go sing the song.
Well,
I'm
let
gonna
me-
drink tonight.
Let me give you the 3 stages of they're what I call technicians, they're managers, and then they're visionaries. These are 3 stages of a business. And a technician, those are the guys that are going to go out there and they're going to be playing. They're the guys that are, it's every, if you've got one country hit, you can go play at State Fair for the rest of your life for 40 years or something. One hit. That's all
I'm
it takes.
proud to be an American.
Exactly.
$20,000 for Lee to come in and do that one
Yeah.
song.
And
at a
every
rodeo.
time war comes around, I mean, Lee Greenwood is right there, cashing in. But here's the thing though, he wrote the song, right?
Yes.
See, and that's what I would call the visionary. And it doesn't even matter if Lee Greenwood is performing it or not. It doesn't matter if some kid on YouTube is doing it. Now that's leverage right there, where Lee Greenwood can just sit around and have somebody like a fake Lee Greenwood or something, just kind of like, if you want to see like leverage, Kiss. Put somebody else with the makeup and let them go, like have about 4 or 5 kids. I worked with a band, I'm not gonna say who they were, but it was a metal band, 80s metal band, you guys have heard of them. And there were like 3 versions of these guys going around on tour.
And one of them only had like a sound guy.
Yeah,
He wasn't
right.
even like a player in the band.
It was like the dude's cousin or something,
Yeah.
it was the original. And
It's the Gallagher syndrome.
yeah, so what ended up happening was the guys who wrote the songs make the money, and the guys who have the albums make the money. So
Sure.
you want to try to be the visionary as much as you can. Let the technicians go out there and do their work, unless you just want to be a road warrior. We
Well,
can talk about that.
We can, and one of the things that I try to encourage everyone to do, especially the ones that come to town, because here's the bottom line. You came here to get a record deal. And if that's your goal and your dream, no one wants to discourage that goal or that dream. What I do is sit here and say, okay, I'm a GED kid, but I'm pretty decent at math. If there's 10 labels and they have 10 artists, that means 100 people in the world are getting a shot at this particular format. You can do that with every genre of music. Now, record companies could only effectively market 4 artists at a time. So that meant 60 that were good enough to make the team aren't even in the game. Now those 60 that are sitting there waiting their chances, they're at the mercy of the record company. Real good example, Florida Georgia Line. Last year in February, went around to every label. Everybody liked them. Nobody had a slot, as we call it. No one had a slot open for them. So I met with the guys. I consult a merchandise company, and it was so funny, and I'm lucky. Let me just say that. I'm lucky at this, because I went and I said, listen, I'm going around trying to get all these bands in town to switch over to our merchandise company. And Bruce Finger, the guy who runs this company, he said, go find somebody that you think's gonna make it and offer him 10 grand in tour support. I'm like, shit, I got a check for 10 grand. I can go offer some cool band. So I end up going to Florida Georgia Line and saying, hey, you guys are going out on this tour, here's 10 grand. So they go out on the Rocket Roadhouse tour, or the Rocket Roadhouse tour, or the Throwdown, Country Throwdown tour. They're playing the side stage. So they're playing for about 100 to 150 people, not a whole bunch of folks. So they end up using that to build this relationship. Well, they end up going ahead and releasing Cruise on TuneCore and made it available. And now all of a sudden people start catching on, somebody hears it, they tweet about it, they're getting real active on their Facebook, their YouTube. 5 months later, 100,000 downloads later, guess who all of a sudden had slots? Every single label that told them they didn't have a slot. Here's what's even more interesting is the label that ended up signing them has 5 artists that were already signed to that label that have been patiently waiting their turn to get in the game, and they got jumped. The moral of that story is roll the frickin' ball yourself, because anybody that's got sense will jump on a moving ball that's already making money. And then when the label gets behind it, the labels are looking for partners. Become a great partner. That's what we encourage people to do, and that's what we teach people to do, is we teach you to be prepared so when your opportunity comes, when you're doing things like this, if all of a sudden you take a few of these things, and all this is, this book should be called Common Frickin' Sense for Musicians. Everything in it, and we're gonna go through this, and I'm gonna get 7 tips to build rapport with fans, in parentheses, or anybody. People your fans included are most respected to those whom they like, know, and trust. Here are 7 tips to help you build rapport with people so that these things happen. Assume rapport is already there. Your fans through your songs and other activities already feel as if they know you. So when meeting them in person, continue on this path. Skip the awkward getting to know you phase when you're introduced and go straight into talking to people as if you know them for years. Treat them the way that you would treat somebody you already know. Remember to.
Can I talk more about that?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so-
want, it's your book. Whatever you want. I'm just reading your words.
Well, here's the thing. It's like you're an artist. It's just like have you guys heard my radio show called Music Business Radio? Anybody? I'm doing a crappy job of marketing that, aren't I? All right, musicbusinessradio.com. It's on Lightning 100, 100.1. If you, but people, you've heard my voice and you probably heard me talk about music marketing, but I don't necessarily know you. That's how you are as an artist. Like people have heard your songs, and they, those people who came up to Taylor Swift, like, oh my God, Taylor, I can't believe you just broke up with whomever she broke up with. And
I was before, I wasn't in any of that.
Right, but-
I left her and she started dating all these people. It's crazy. I
But
didn't have to deal with any of that part.
But they feel like they know her because of her lyrics, and that's
Yes.
where you are and you're trying to continue that. And there's no reason about like, hi, how's the weather? Where are you from? Do you know John from Nashville or whatever?
The best thing I ever
Start
read,
it off.
and I read in your book, and it was something with her, is when people start saying, oh my gosh, I feel like you've read my diary, cha-ching. You own them forever. Because now you're their portal. You're the one they're vicariously living through. And you said that in your book. I mean, all this
Do I
stuff
talk
just.
about how to do that in here? Do you want to talk
Yeah,
about that?
you did talk about that.
Okay.
Sometimes he forgets what got edited
No,
out.
that's
I listened to him and he goes, I think that may be in the book.
This book took like 2 years to write, and it was 100,000 words. They edited it down to 70. So I was like, well, I hope that was in there because that's.
No, all the good stuff made it. I'm
See,
digging it.
I'm looking at this from a marketing perspective. I'm a marketing guy, and if somebody were to hire me and they said, Dave, sell this diet pill, and I'm hanging out at the gym like all the time. I've never taken a diet pill or something like that, but I've got to get into the mind of somebody who is taking a diet pill and might want to, or somebody who maybe needs like credit counseling service or something of that nature. And you've got to say, well, what would that person feel? And I think that's what these songwriters do. That's what Taylor does, and all the songwriters that I've ever known. It's like my buddy. Jason Bloom. Do you guys know Jason Bloom? He wrote some stuff for. He's around here doing some courses and stuff, and he's like 40-something years old. And I asked him, I said, dude, is it a little creepy that you can, relate to these tween girls like that? And he said, yeah, it's scary, isn't it? But that's him get into the mind of tween girls, and that's where you have to be as
Sure.
Okay, so where were we?
We were on number 2
Okay.
of your 7.
This is about. These ideas just come to me, man. You creative people can understand that. Number 2 talks about just being approachable. Don't be like the guy who's like too cool for school. You want people to be able to come to you, and I think I'm going to keep using Taylor, not because of you, because she just does it so perfectly.
Well, but there was a reason for that. It's like a lot of people put a table out in front of you, and to me that was so just, I didn't feel like the barrier. So what I loved about the country music artists, at least the ones that, in my opinion, got trained, is you step out with the fans. The fans, if you don't want to be loved on as an artist, then quit being an artist.
Well, that's what you did with this. I asked Rick earlier, so Rick, don't you want to be on the stage, man, where everybody can see us? He's like, no, we like to be within the people.
No, I just feel this is
So,
more relatable for
yeah.
us. It's hard enough anyway, and guys, to approach somebody, to approach a hot chick, it's tough.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of, you know,
Well,
you kind of got to
well,
move.
think
I
about
want-
it though. Think about the hot chick. Okay, so let's use that as an example.
All right, we're in
You
with
want,
hot chicks now.
you
okay.
want a woman that's going to be approachable. She's not going to shoot you down when you walk up to her. It's not going to be that spotlight on you where everybody's going to see you getting
Sure.
shot down. So just the fact that she's approachable.
That's why guys become stalkers.
You're stalkers for your band. Is that what you're saying?
No, I get it. What we used to do with, and that's just a joke, but basically, you can disarm your fans right away when they walk up, especially for the girls. Other girls are they're catty, they are scoping you out. I mean, the most vicious people in the world are teenage girls. So here's Taylor at 16 years old, and these girls have been waiting in line for 2 hours with their boyfriends. Soon as they would get up there, the first thing Taylor would do was tell a girl how pretty she was. Or if she saw her necklace, oh my gosh, I love your necklace. Shields come down, bangs
Well,
retract back in like a True Blood, and now they're buddies. You know what I mean? It's just that. But she made it approach because a tall, good-looking chick can be intimidating.
let me give you another example of that. This is
You didn't like the True Blood fangs retracting?
no. I like.
Okay.
This is another one. This is one that may be more memorable. It's good. That's good.
Dude, it's gonna take you 2 more years to write a book. I can have this shit out tonight on my blog. You better be careful.
Here's the deal. This is,
Tweeting right now. You
I
say whatever you
look to
want.
I look to other markets, and if you want to talk about rapport building, and this is the God's honest truth. When I studied sociology when I was in school. I've got a music degree, but I minored in sociology. And one of my my teachers was a
Hang out at
dancer.
strip bars, did you?
My teacher was a stripper, and she taught me, or she had been, and it was a sociology of deviance. And she taught me one of the really cool things about rapport ever is that she said that couples would come into the strip club, and the first thing that she would do is she would go to the woman, because the woman
Sure.
didn't necessarily want to be there. And
No, but she
wasn't
gets
gonna
free
go-
lap dances.
She wasn't going to
She's the
want to go
gatekeeper.
hit up the guy, because then they get into some kind of strip club cat
Brawl,
fight or
right,
something.
right, yeah.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. It's like you've got to disarm the situation, appear like you're one of them,
Yes.
and then the people will come around. And this is what we call social proof. It's like when your buddies are coming around, then you're going to come around.
Right.
So that gets back to the marketing aspect.
No, and I agree with that. And while we're on the subject of strippers, no, this is a good thing. One of the things that we teach people and the artists that I work with, even with the guys, but I use it as an analogy, as I call it, as an artist, you need to have stripper eyes. And what a stripper does, for those of you that don't know, and you better not know, is they make you feel like you're the only guy in that room where you're just giving up all your money to them, and then they just move on to the next person.
Yeah.
Now, when you're in a conference room, here's what a lot of people, don't get so, and I go all over the place. Like I said, I was ADD before they even had
Take-
letters for it.
take-
Yeah. When you're out on radio tour, don't spend all your time getting great with a band, because if you get what you say you want, which is the record deal, the first year of your life is with you and a guitar. And if you can't master a room with 3 people, you're screwed. Absolutely done. Because what happens is you're walking into a place, most of them don't care that you're there. Most of them will be on their BlackBerry, whatever, and you have to sing like there's 100,000 people that are there. So get good at this eye contact. Get good at, start practicing now, leaving your phones when you go to lunch with your friends, or in meetings, or things like that. It will prepare you for radio tour. Sorry, I jumped off there for a second. So we went from stripper, your college person, getting free
Yeah.
lap dances with the
Strippers
girl.
and radio.
Yes, that's where we were. So go to number 3.
Number 3 is listen. Any thoughts on that?
No, I think that what they always say is if you shut up long enough, someone will tell you how to sell them.
Well, I think you said it really great at the very beginning. You taking other people's ideas or whatever it is that you said.
No, plagiarizing and lazy.
Yeah, right, so and to do that, you gotta listen.
Well, the thing is this, is that you also gotta be careful who you're listening to. Because there are people, everyone has an opinion, and we've all heard the analogy.
This is about rapport, though.
Yeah, this is about, because what happens is if, imagine this, imagine if your fan was like your friend, where you knew what they liked and where they shopped and what they read and what they, I can tell you what movies my friends like, what they like to eat. Imagine if you knew that about your fan. I know the buying habits.
Yeah.
The best way to learn that is to listen, but what's great with technology today, we can listen by reading. We can go to their Facebook pages and see what their likes are. We can go see what books they have. Heck, you even talk about being able to go into Amazon.
Well, this is what I would, for an example, so let's say you're a tween artist, you're going for the same people that Taylor Swift's going for. I would go to Amazon and I would look at those Amazon reviews. I would find out how these fans, girls, whatever, talk. I'd find out what they're into. I would find out how they relate to each other when they're in the comments section, and then I would write a song tailored toward them. Same thing if we were talking about, like I was talking earlier about like the weight loss drugs or something. If I was trying to get into that market, I would go to like a Weight Watchers message board. I would find out how they're talking, how they're relating to each other. And you're gonna, because everybody has their own language, and I talk about it in this book with musicians. If I'm gonna try out for a band, there's a certain thing that I do. I show up with my guitar, they say set up over there, plug in over here. You know what things like plug in. You talked about like air checks today on the radio.
Yeah.
Air checks in radio, you and I know what that means. Some people might not know what that means, but everybody has their language, and you need to talk to them in their language to build that rapport.
Well, and,
That's what that's about.
and in the blueprint, I call it building your fan avatar. You wanna know where they shop, where they eat, do they have their own language? We took a project with an artist, and the cool part is if you ask, a lot of times they'll answer. So instead of having to do all this research through Facebook, she started tweeting going, hey, what's your favorite soda? Everybody started answering questions, so we found out for this particular artist, we called her avatar Audrey. We found out that she's a hopeless romantic, sees the glass as half full versus half empty. She's Christian, so inspirational quotes were really good to send out on Twitter and Facebook. She was a big fan of the Hunger Games, likes Taylor Swift, and blah, blah, blah. We
And when she
learned
spelled
all
your,
this.
It was U and R.
There you go. And we found all this stuff out, because what happens is once you're able to listen and know who your fan is, that's how you get to start building rapport and communicating with them, because now you're gonna start sending things out that are important to them. If you find out that they shop at Forever 21 and you're at Forever 21 and you see a coupon, take a picture of it, throw it up on your Twitter, said, hanging out at Forever 21, thought of you. Because the one person reading it thinks it's for them. That's the cool part about the internet. If all of a sudden, with us, we give away, we have the 7 free songs. Well, guess what? I've built a whole business on 7 free songs. So I have all the artists I work with promoting everybody else's 7 free songs, going, hey, this week I wanted to send you 7 free songs from a friend of mine. And the person's going, wow, they sent me music and they weren't even marketing about themselves. Well, that's because we all stop answering emails from that friend that only comes to us when they need money. Or when they call and we know, oh crap, I know what this phone call is gonna be about. Your fans are the exact same way.
Yeah.
Your fans will not go to a website. How many of you go to a website that has thousands of things on it and click on every single little thing that's on that website? Guess what, folks? Your fans don't either. So do you really need a 20-page website that costs you $5,000? Well, to the guy in town that's selling you the 20-page website for $5,000, you absolutely need it, because that's the latest, greatest. It's just crap. If you won't do it, 99% of your fans won't do it either. If you take anything from here today, take that one for you. That's a free little nugget for you guys.
Well, if you will too, this another chapter in the book called basically you are not your fans. Keep in mind that music is a whole lot more important to you as artists or musicians or songwriters than your fans. Most people think of it as background noise, and they don't care. You ask them what their favorite song is, they say whatever's on the radio. What kind of music do you like? Well, I like good music. You guys have heard all that, and that's just the reality that you're working with. And you can't sit there and argue with them how cool music is, how awesome it was to hold that guitar for the first time, because they don't get it. So just work with them at their level. Again, come down to their level. There's nothing wrong with it because you're trying to bring them up. You're not stooping over.
And if they don't want to talk about your music, be cool with that. Let him talk about themselves.
Well, really, it's a lifestyle thing. When I think about Taylor Swift, this is a
You
another
think
great
about her a
Taylor
lot,
example.
don't you?
Well, she's marketing wet dream.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing: is when you're waiting on the Taylor show, she's got those big screens where you're tweeting stuff, and I'm sure somebody's looking at it, and then you can see your message up on the big screen. She makes it about you. Jimmy Buffett doesn't have his face on the jumbotron. He's got you with your fake sand that you brought in and your parrot on your shoulder or something, and he makes it about you. The Grateful Dead did that.
Yeah.
You know, I think
You guys know Jimmy Buffett only had like one hit song on the radio, right? And the Grateful Dead, I think, maybe had one.
yeah, but you know,
And they gave their stuff away.
I have an uncle that spent like $500 million on like a boat or something like that, and he goes, "Oh yeah, you know, Jimmy Buffett's my idol," and he literally has this whole lifestyle where he just cruises around on a boat.
No, I was working at a rock station in Santa Barbara. We have this place called the Santa Barbara Bowl. Beautiful facility. Jimmy Buffett's there. So I'm seeing like these like attorneys and all these bigwigs with this crap on their head. I'd never been to a Jimmy Buffett. I'd heard about the parrot heads, but I'd never experienced the parrot heads. So I took so much video. The next day on the radio, I said, "Kids, listen up. The next time your parents give you crap about not acting your age, call me, because I got video footage of them acting like complete, total morons. Total morons."
Yeah.
So I don't know how we got to that. Go, get back in your book.
Okay. The next one is be vulnerable, and we talked about this earlier. I had Rick on the show today, and that show will be edited because of me, not for Rick. Rick is so smooth; he did it all in one take. But that'll be edited soon here, and we talked about what I call the damaging admission. When somebody's coming to like a Taylor Swift show or something, for example. Can we use Taylor Swift?
I wish we'd find somebody else.
Okay, let's find somebody else. So name a band. Somebody name a band.
One Direction.
Okay, One Direction. Okay,
Is
fantastic.
that a guilty pleasure,
So-
Zelda?
I love One Direction. That record is incredible. I don't know about their live show, so I'm gonna make some assumptions though, right? When I go to a One Direction show, you know what I'm
You're totally getting arrested. If you're
in that creepy 40-year-old kind of way. So
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go
it's
ahead.
totally normal for a 40-year-old guy to go to a One Direction.
That's right.
So anyway, if I go to a One Direction show, I mean, I'm looking for like dancing and things of that nature. I'm not necessarily looking for singing. And it would be nice, like the damaging admission, for example, when Ashley Simpson gets called on Saturday Night Live lip syncing. If she would just say, "Yeah, you know, I was lip syncing because I like to dance when I sing, and I can't sing as well as I dance because people know me for dancing. I'm just here to have a good time. This isn't about me doing it live. This is for me to have a good time." That would be really, really nice, and that's a vulnerability, and I think that would have gotten her some respect other than just trying to bullshit everybody. Same for like One Direction. If they ever got caught like in some kind of lip syncing scandal or something, that would be really refreshing, wouldn't it? It's kind of like, did you ever see a movie called Crazy People, where they were talking about Volvos, and they got like these guys in the insane asylum
Oh, yes.
running the ad agency, and they had this ad for Volvo. It said, "Boxy, but it's safe." And like, there's something like really kind of
Yeah.
cool about just being honest. Be like, "Hey, hell no, I don't sing live at all. What I do is like Girl Talk. Everybody know Girl Talk, the mashup artist? That guy just presses a button. He's like, shit, I spent the last 2 years working on the record. I'm not a live guy. I'm going to press it. I'm going to dance with you." So there's something kind of neat about that, and that's what vulnerability is, because people know it already.
And I also think vulnerability is stop trying to be perfect. Nobody is perfect. And a lot of times you could overthink perfect and never get out product to your fans, and they leave. Oh, and they leave. It's like, I think you brought up in one of your things, that don't go in a cave. It's just, I was on the radio for many, many years. I had a gal. She was an English professor at UC Santa Barbara, and she ended up recording one of my breaks, and she transcribed it and corrected it in red pen, sent it to my general manager, and said he should be ashamed of himself for allowing someone who was butchering the Queen's English to be allowed to be on the radio.
Yeah.
That became one of my best morning show bits ever, because I was able to convince this chick that we don't have queens in the United States of America, and I speak American, I don't speak Queen's English, but I always take whatever I do. I would say something, I go, "Man, you guys are probably, how the heck does he get paid to talk for a living? You guys act like nobody saw your freaking mistakes, and just laugh at yourself, because everybody else is really laughing with you when it happens. The same thing, unless it's just totally crazy. When you do your YouTube video and you make a mistake, be vulnerable and leave the mistake in. And write something, like I did a video on somebody and it went silent. I said, this was the best thing she said. And they were all emailing me, dude, what did she say? What? She didn't say nothing. I just said that, you know what I mean? But if I would have tried to make it all perfect and had the chop edit, be vulnerable.
Well,
Let them into your world.
I don't mean to get political, but
Get political.
okay, I will.
Anybody says they don't mean to get political means to get
Well,
political.
I want, okay,
Let's be honest.
let's get political. Well, let's talk about a guy who I think he kind of pokes fun at himself, is Bill Clinton. Now, Bill Clinton is known for cigars and mistresses or whatever he does, and, you know, he's kind of a funny guy, and let's look at him compared to some other politicians, maybe like the guy from like North Korea, for example, that has like the military uniform and he's got all those pictures everywhere. I mean, if that guy fell down or barfed on the diplomat or something like that, you know, people would be murdered. But he doesn't really have the rapport as somebody like Slick Willie does. So think about that. I mean, something to be said. I mean, Bill Clinton got away with a lot because he had.
I got 15-year-old. They don't know Bill Clinton and Slick Willie.
Oh, okay.
So give them an example they can use. Hannah Montana. No, just kidding.
Well, somebody who does a good job of see, I can't relate to 15-year-olds. I'm gonna have to go read your Amazon reviews and hang out on your message board, and then I can come back and talk to you in your language.
There you go.
But I mean, I think people like this like the stuffy guy who's like too cool, like at the bar, for example.
They don't go to
Oh, you
bars.
don't?
They're
Okay.
only 15. All right. Well, no, we get it. Does anybody have any question? I mean, there's a lot of people here from a lot of different walks of life. We got artists, we got managers, we got publicists, we got record label people, we got
This book is free.
everybody. Does anybody have any questions so far on anything that we're talking about? Yes, ma'am.
Well, you guys have talked a lot about what to do with your fan base once you have them. I think every artist just starting out, the biggest struggle is actually building that fan base and getting those gigs that are going to be your best audiences that are going to stick with you. And
Sure.
what would you recommend for?
The thing right now is I always tell everybody to write your elevator pitch. Your elevator pitch is this: if you get on the 3rd floor and you get down to the 1st floor, what can you say in 15 seconds that best describes you? I'll give you an example. I have this kid that I work with in New Jersey. I say Mark is, if Dave Matthews and John Mayer had a Christian baby, it would be Mark Persing. So basically, I now know a couple of different places that I might be able to go, and I call it hijacking fans. Go in and start following these artists that you think would have similar fans to you, and don't go in the first day and go, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm an artist, check out my music, because that's what 95% of them do. Don't put things up on Facebook saying, if you like this, come like me. I don't like people the first time I meet them. I may after I get to know you
Get
a
a date
little
a little
bit.
bit.
Yeah, let's date.
Yeah.
So I would just go out and start finding these fans, and then if you follow them, they follow you back, then send them a direct message and just say, hey, by the way, I've been working on this new project. I'd love for you to check out my music. One of the things we do early on to build rapport is we do house concerts. I live in Nolensville. I live in a community. On March 23rd, Maddie Newton and Taylor Edwards will be doing a house concert for Miss Johnson, who's a 3rd grade teacher at Nolensville Elementary, who just invited all of her friends and our neighborhood friends to a potluck. And we come in, and there'll be about 40 people there. We'll stream it live on Ustream, and the artist will be able to play in front of a live audience. They'll be able to make relationships with those people that will all go back to their Facebook friends and tell them about the cool person that they just saw. And then all of a sudden, it starts spreading out. But what I want to warn you is don't rely solely on your Facebook and your Twitter. Both of us preach this tremendously. You need to bring them back into a place where you can collect their email and have the ability to communicate and build a relationship. Too many artists right now feel that they can build a relationship through Twitter. You cannot in 140 characters. I do not care who you are. Twitter is used to instantaneously drive someone to a place where you can start building that relationship.
Well, you can further it maybe, but maybe not start it. I'm curious to know more about your music. Tell me about it. Like in 30 seconds or less.
Like Amy Winehouse and Jason Mraz.
Okay.
They had an angry chick baby.
Okay. And tell me more about yourself.
Did everybody hear her? If Amy Winehouse and Jason Mraz had an angry chick baby.
Tell me more about yourself. Like, what are your hobbies?
My hobbies
Okay.
studied philosophy.
Philosophy? Okay, does that affect your music at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, because my advice to you would be, I've got a whole chapter in the book about this, and I can give you a really great story about it. But it's actually right here afterwards. I call it Dance with the One That Brung You. You guys have heard that story?
Read
So-
it.
well, I'm not gonna. I can't read
Yeah, I can read.
really, but let me explain it to you because I'm gonna give you the personal experience, and you guys can read it later. But
You got a degree in philosophy or whatever it was, and you can't read, or she's
the music with a minor in sociology, I can just relate to people and play a little guitar. So here's I call it like Dance with the One That Brung You. This is the mistake that I see a lot of people make. Is that you grew up on like a farm in Kentucky or something, and you've been playing bluegrass all your life, and all of a sudden you want to just get into like dubstep, or or you're Christian and you want to just go outside the flock and like get into whatever industrial music or something. I mean, I think you just have to start where you are, and I understand if everybody wants to be the crossover artist, and they want to. The guy from England wants to break America. The Christian person wants to be on mainstream radio or whatever. But sometimes it's really easy to just not, I guess, to ignore where you come from. But if you're big in churches now, stay in churches. And if Christian music is your thing, do Christian music. And if you're a lesbian, play to some other lesbians. Dance with the One That Brung You. Start it there. You are your audience, and you don't need to get to know them because you know how they talk, you know how they relate to each other. And then go from there. So I'd say start where you are. That's the short.
Another thing too is that no one woke up with 100,000 friends. In our life, we had to consistently put ourselves in places where we felt like people hung out. The online just allows you to find those places a little bit easier. So build those relationships one at a time, 10 at a time, 20 at a time. When you put stuff out on the internet, make it remarkable. Seth Godin talks about in that book, something that someone else will remark about. If you put something and somebody shares it, that meant they just shared you with their friends. So put stuff out there that's just not noise. We get so much noise every single day. Seth Godin also has a great book called Permission Marketing, if anybody wants to look that up. It's a great, great book. This book is free on Dave's website. I highly recommend you go and read it. It will teach you a whole bunch of really cool stuff. That was a great question. Thank you. Does anybody?
And what is that website, by the way?
Musicmarketing.com.
Yeah.
Music market, and anybody who's not on the email list, sign up for the email list. I've got it up here, and I'll send you links to everything that we talk about.
And we'll give us some away for good questions. Remember that as you ask your question. This guy really wants one.
That one. Bookshelf. This is sort of a little different than what a lot of other people here might relate to. Being someone who's been an artist a long time, I have a lot of established relationships for bands that I have been with, and artists that have been like Hall of Fame artists and stuff that I've worked with.
Yeah.
And I dip into their little websites and stuff like that, and I've even had like cuts by them. Gardens Like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young cut one of my tunes at a reunion album.
Okay.
I jumped right into their websites and stuff, and hey guys, and answering questions and stuff. It seemed like nobody opened I opened the chain purse, the little moths came out. Is it just a demographic thing that
What, none of their fans were interested in talking to you, like?
they talk? Oh, they love talking to me,
Diverting from
emailing
that
me.
song to
They
your
thanked me.
solo
They
stuff?
said my song was the best thing they ever heard, and nobody seemed to make that bridge to.
To your solo
Well,
stuff?
yeah.
Okay.
Here's, I said, go to my website, and here's a demo of the song that you love, that they recorded, the kind of thing you're talking about,
Sure.
the free things. Is there
Go
just a
ahead,
demographic cutoff?
Well, that stuff is hot, and you can see that from the writers' rounds around town. Because a lot of writers here are also performers. But I'll give you an example of a buddy of mine, Will Hope. Will Hope just had a big hit with some band that I can't think of right now.
Grammy nominated.
Yeah, what was that band called?
Eli Young.
Eli Young. Okay, so you know Will. So then he'd had that song out first, but then he's going to be able to release different versions of that like on YouTube. And granted, Will's in a different situation because he's touring like all the time. He's got fans, but it's something that makes people relate more to him, and it gets those Eli Young fans. Some people think Eli Young wrote that, and that's cool. But I think there's like some education for a lot of fans, and I think that's something to keep in mind as a writer. That's just my personal thing, because I know the concept works.
Well, and I also think that the more steps you make people go through to get to your stuff, the harder it is. If somebody tells you they're into something and they like it, send it to them. I always call it the push pray until something happens is basically what push stands for, and everybody kind of pushes everything out. But if you're telling them, hey, I got the greatest thing and I need you to go to my web, people don't like to go we're all lazy, you know what I mean?
Well-
So make it easy, if you can make it easier for them while you have them engaged, you know, hey, if you'd like a free copy of this, you know, I always start talking to people is what I find.
I would also give them the story behind the song. I think you've got a lot of opportunity as a writer, say, you know, here's what had happened, I'd just been divorced. And,
I did that, I had a whole,
Did you,
on
like,
my
like-
website, I had a whole the story of the song
Okay, but
with postcards.
Did
and all
you
Well, but-
tell them
but
the
what
story
about
of
like
the song, or did you make them read it?
But like a video, I mean, something again to bring yourself into it, to show them that this is not just, here's the problem with text on the internet, this is maybe a different discussion, but a lot of folks don't like to read. So, and the thing is, we got these multimedia things. The other thing about text on the internet is that it's one sentence, it's your site. So I'm always a big fan of anytime you can, that's why this is so great, is I always say we can taste you, touch you, feel you, smell you. I mean, you're activating all your senses. And the more senses you can activate, the better rapport we have. Because you and I have met each other, when you Twitter me again, I'm gonna know who you are. Jill
Do you
emailed
tweet
me,
yet, Danny?
tweeted me.
Do you tweet?
So this woman over here
No,
named
not
Jill.
to lie. Yeah.
Jill had sent me something earlier, and it was funny. She sent me this Michael Bublé pimp cup as an example of like some merchandising. It was Michael Bublé's logo with a bunch of bedazzlement on it. And now I've seen her. Now that puts it